everybody needs clean air and clean water. And I don't know if people are aware here, but there are 8 counties, not cities, counties in the state of Wisconsin that the American Lung Association gave a grade of F to. That's not okay. That is not okay. My 12-year-old grandson out there, Phoenix, is a remarkable, incredible athlete. You put a ball in his hand, any kind of ball, and he dominates the sport. He's been the quarterback on his little football league for, I think, 3 seasons now. And when he has the ball, you can pretty much count on some spectacular things happening on the basketball court and on the football field. But you know what? He's got asthma. Doesn't run in our family. It's climate related. And when he's out there and about to make an important play, run the ball down the field or whatever, all of a sudden I can see him clutching at his chest. I can see that he's out of breath. And reluctantly he has to come off, on the side of the field or the court. And that's not okay for any child. And I worry that while we're all wearing these cloth masks right now, I fear if we don't do something now, that in 10 years, my grandkids are going to be wearing hazard masks. And that scares the you-know-what out of me. It truly does. So I am so excited that we have the opportunity with Governor Ear's budget and with the task force on climate change that Lieutenant Barnes has spearheaded. So I have great hope. As far as water goes, we have the privilege, the absolute blessing, to have a great lake right behind here. And we've got pipelines that are going through them. This is a natural wonder. The largest bodies of fresh air on the planet. And we're allowing pipelines to go through. And let me tell you something. I was at Standing Rock, standing with the Native Americans against the Dakota Access Pipeline. And I learned every pipe leaks. It's just a matter of time. Not only that, they have passed laws that they don't even have to tell you until it's an insane amount of oil that you can't miss. Now, the other thing I can tell you, you all know water and oil don't mix. Well, if you were to take 1 gallon of oil and dump it in the ocean, that contaminates 1 million gallons. 1 million gallons. If you take a pint of oil and put it in Lake Michigan or in a waterway or some other small lake, it's going to cover the surface of a mile. So it's time we do something. It's time we do something about this. So thank you. So I'm here for that issue. I'm also here as I am a board member on Peace Action of Wisconsin, who's represented here. Thank you for coming. And I was at the office one day helping out, and Pam said to me, wow, there's an email here from Pastor Jonathan asking if we would come down and, share, support them in their last meal. And I said, oh, yeah, sure, Pam, we'll go, yep. Well, it just kept gnawing at me, so I went home and I looked at the website, the Facebook page, I'm sorry. And it just I could hear the calling loud and clear. I kept trying to push it away. So I sent a text to Pastor and asked him to tell me more about this. I mean, is it a juice fast? Is it what? He said, no, this is a water only fast. This is water only. I'm like, oh wow. And I told him I was interested in doing it. Now, what I meant by I was interested in doing it was I was interested in doing it remotely from my house, so that if on day 2 or 5 I said, oh, that's it for me, I didn't have any accountability to anybody. And this is all in the plan, but Pastor was, listen to my story of, I've been a lifelong activist. I was born absolutely intolerant to any injustice of any kind. And people know that from my signs. I've got hundreds of them. My kids think I'm crazy. Now I just lost my point. See, this is what happens. Well, all right, never mind. It wasn't important, I guess. So, okay, so now, oh yeah, we're on the issue war. So I said, so Pastor Jonathan said, well, are you interested? I'm like, yeah, heck, I'm interested. Sure, I'm interested. He said, well, why don't you sleep on it tonight? I'll give you a call in the morning. I said, all right. And he says, I'll have to check with I'm going to check with the other team members. And I thought, well, check with the other team members, just so I can do a remote, fasting at my own house. Wow. And so he called me bright and early the next morning. So how do you feel this morning? What do you think? Are you in? I'm like, yeah, it sounds great. And he's like, great, I'll get a hold of the press and put out a press release that we're now the Wisconsin 6. At that time, there were 5. And then I was going to be the Wisconsin 6. And I'm like, oh, whoa. So there was no backing down at that point. But he's such an inspiration and such a force to be dealt with that how could you possibly say no to him? So also, when I looked at the web page about the event, I noticed, Wisconsin 5 at that point were all men. Talented, resourceful, diversified, young men. And I said to myself, oh boy, these guys are going to need some feminine energy in there, and they're also going to need some elder wisdom. And so I knew that I needed to sign up with the team. So on the issue of war, I'm just going to say a couple of facts about war. It's unsustainable, period, end of story. $1 trillion a year is spent to war. They tell you it's $750 billion, but there's a bunch of little side funds that they draw from. That translates to 67 cents of every tax dollar. Now, I like to imagine what we could do with just a quarter of that, $250 billion. We could start a serious transition to a green economy that's life-sustaining, that offers living wages. No longer do parents have to worry about Army or recruiters coming into their kids' junior high school class or high school class and get them to sign up for the military because there's no other jobs available without them. They can't afford to go to college. With this budget and with getting these green initiatives through, I want to see green job recruiters come into the schools to tell them what opportunities there are in cleaning up this place and making it thrive for many generations to come. Thank you. So the next thing I have then is the Native American issue, the indigenous people. Steve's walking away with my flag there that had it there before. I've worked real closely for the last probably 10 years with the Native American indigenous community out in California, up and down the coast, when they were trying to make a priest. They were going to canonize a father who had done all the killing of the natives. They tell the story, oh, we brought him in, we taught him agriculture. Like, what? You taught the Native Americans agriculture? So they have this big story that they spin. It's because it's a big industry. There's 22 missions up and down the coast, and it's a big tourist attraction. So, like I said, the natives have been here in Wisconsin for 12,000 years. So in all actuality, wherever we stand, we're actually on stolen native land. And so I'm here today, I want to honor them. I want to honor them for being the protectors of the water, of the planet, of fighting back against the corporate aggressions against our Mother Earth. I want to thank them because you know what? When I was up at Standing Rock, and they're up at Line 3 right now, they're all over the place fighting pipelines. Let me tell you what, water does not stand still. It runs downstream. So it's coming to all of us. That water that they're dumping in reservation treaty land is actually coming right to our homes and our faucets. And so we need to link arms with them. We need to get engaged in the dialogue of climate change and climate justice. It's easy to let it pass you by. It's difficult. People don't like the word change. They don't. But it's time. We don't have time to walk away from that conversation. We have a moral obligation. This is not a wish list. This is the Wisconsin Governor's Task Force on Climate Change report. You can get this on our website. We have it on there to download. It's on the back. Please understand what we have at stake here. And we have to get away from being what I call clicktivists. Everybody on Facebook, they see something, they just see the picture associated to a headline. They don't even read what's below the picture. Oh, I like that. Oh, that makes me mad. Oh, that's funny. And they go on to the next one, and they do it hundreds of times every day. Imagine if they took just one or two and took it serious enough to learn about the issue and do something about it. Be activists. Imagine what we can do. Imagine what we can do. And so I'm calling on all of you to do that. I want you to be the biggest thorn in the side of every single legislator in this state. Be relentless. They have to listen to us. What I'm hoping that we do in the near future, after we all recover from this 22 days, is to get together, the group of us and all of our followers, to go to Madison for a lobby day. And we have our listed demands. And we walk through the halls until we've reached every single office. And if we can't speak to our legislator, we say, great, well, would you kindly hand this to him? Then there's accountability. We can come back and say, well, we dropped this off at your office. What do you think of that? Are you for that? You are? Great. Sign on to the legislation. Help Governor Evers here out. If you're not, I want you to put in writing, why not? Why not? Because when you govern for people and the planet, peace and prosperity will surely follow. So I'm gonna end with my speech, but I have a very special guest that I want to bring up today. As you know, after the rally, we're going to be going across the Father Grappi Unity Bridge. He was an amazing legacy, a leader, a game changer. When that was going on in the 60s, I was 14, 15 years old. I came from a very racist family. My father would see him and Martin Luther King marching, and he'd say they need to be shot. And as a 12, 13-year-old, I'm like, why? They're dressed better than you are, with their hats and their clothes, and they're marching peacefully and singing songs of praise. What's the matter with that? So today I have the honor to burn off some of that generational karma I have. And I am so happy and pleased to bring up right now Christine Grappi, who is the daughter of Father Grappi. And unfortunately, he passed in what he was, I think it was 54, Christine, and she was 5. So I am so grateful that you're here. Christine Grappi, everybody.
Thanks, everybody, for coming out. Okay. So Jill invited me to be here today since we're going to be walking across the bridge that's named after my father. And it's a very symbolic and significant location in Milwaukee civil rights history. And a few months ago, some of us were there again, working on the civil rights issue of our day, which is ending police abuse and police brutality. And then we're going to be there again today to sort of embark on the fight of the civil rights issue of the future, which is climate justice. So Jill asked me to just say a few words, so I thought I would tell a story about my father that like very few people know, but it relates to everything that everybody's been talking about today, which is after he married my mom and he was unable to continue practicing in the priesthood, he had to look for a job. So he was offered or invited to apply for a position in ministry in a small town somewhere in the Midwest. And he drove out there for the interview, and they started talking. It was a small town, and they were building a new water tower. They started talking about this water tower, and it came up that the water tower was going to be to provide water for the residents of the town who happened to be all white. And all of the African American residents lived outside the town. And my father said, if you give me this position, there's no way in hell that water is going to be for the white people only. And so right then and there they decided they had better hire the other guy. So but the reason I tell that story is that with climate change upon us, we need to be looking out for our most vulnerable communities. Everybody deserves safe, clean, healthy drinking water. Everyone deserves food security in the time of climate change, and those green jobs need to be going to the people who need the jobs the most. So I want to thank everybody for coming out and just recognizing, kind of recognizing the history of Milwaukee civil rights and kind of bringing that into the future. Thank you so much.
Right.
Can we hear it for Jill and Christine? We are going to be wrapping up in just a second, but we've got one other special dignitary here that I would like to introduce. Joyce Elwinger, again, a lifelong activist here in Milwaukee, somebody who deeply inspires me and humbles me. She's going to share a few words with us. So Joyce, why don't you come on up?
I'll be very brief. I just want to bring it to the here and now. I'm the secretary for the MICA Transportation Task Force, and we have an issue before the city and the county and the state right now, and that is I-94. Right down the hill. We're going to be going that way to go over the bridge. The Wisconsin Department of Transportation wants to take a 3.5-mile segment from here out to 70th Street and spend $1 billion to build more lanes. We are saying we don't need to do that. We can work within what we have, add some safety features for the neighborhoods so that the exits and ramps are safer, and we can focus on transit issues instead of constantly building more and more freeways. The number one polluter in terms of carbon emissions is cars. All right, so what we are doing, well, the county board is voting on this Wednesday on a resolution that would say, let's have a full environmental impact study before this project goes forward. They need to hear from us if that's what we want. The governor's climate advisory committee report said we want a full environmental study before the I-94 expansion goes forward. Governor Evers ignored that and put $83 million into our budget in bonding issues for the study to be advanced. We want to say, let's look at where we are. It's a different world. COVID has changed everything. COVID-19 has changed everything, and it makes sense to stop, take a second look, and so let's call for a full environmental impact study before anything else happens on I-94.
When I say climate, you say justice. Climate!
Justice!
Climate!
Justice!
Let me wrap up by reminding us what our 6 demands are as the Wisconsin 7. Our first is we want to see focus on energy doubled in this state budget, and not only doubled, but having an intentional carve out for communities that have been historically left behind and are impacted by poverty. That includes things like on-bill financing and PACE financing. So it's not just those who own homes, but everybody who can benefit from energy savings. The second thing we are demanding is that there be an Office of Environmental Justice, which says that our communities of color, our indigenous communities, and our communities impacted by poverty will have a seat at every table that makes a decision about what the future of Wisconsin looks like as we transition away from dirty fossil fuels to clean renewable energy. The third thing we are demanding is that the $1 million that Supreme was talking about be put forth for job training and green jobs. So people that are getting out of incarceration, people who need jobs, people who don't have family-sustaining jobs can get trained in good-paying green jobs in the transition. The fourth thing we are advocating for is charging infrastructure. Currently, electric cars cost almost nothing in maintenance per year. So that is a huge savings. There's no oil changes, there's no fuel lines, there's none of that stuff. For every one part in an electric car, there's 1,000 parts in an internal combustion engine car. So they have almost no maintenance, they have almost no heat. Not only do they have no maintenance, but they cost about half as much to fuel each year. Now the problem is you have to have a place to plug it in. And so we have the opportunity for public infrastructure for charging. So if you live in an apartment, if you don't have a garage with a plug, you can access the savings of electric cars. And not only does this save money, but this also, of course, cleans up our air quality. The fifth thing we are advocating for is clean water. There are too many lead pipes throughout southeastern Wisconsin and throughout our state. It is hard to imagine that this has to be a fight. Who wants children to have to drink contaminated lead water? But it has to be advocated for. So we will keep advocating it for. We'll make our politicians keep saying no until we get it. And we will remember those who say no and wonder where their love of neighbor is. And then the fifth thing we are advocating for, and I used to serve in a rural church here in Wisconsin, is we are advocating for our rural and farm communities. And there are a lot of ways that climate justice can impact them. One big way in the budget is land conservation and water management. And these are issues that will help our rural communities. And just like our cities have problems with our drinking water, our rural communities also have all sorts of toxins getting in their groundwater and drinking water. And so we want every kid throughout this state to have clean water. And again, all of these things are in the current budget, but we need to get it passed. And so we want climate justice in this budget. So when I say climate justice budget, can we do that again? Climate justice budget. Climate justice budget. Climate justice budget. All right, let me end on a word of hope. So these can feel like challenging, dark things to talk about. But as a person of faith, I am mindful that the imaginations, prophecies, and dreams of the people who follow the divine have shaped the world for millennia. Whether it be Isaiah, who prophesied a world where the swords were turned into plowshares and the spears into pruning hooks, whether it be the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. speaking about a world where the color of one's skin did not determine whether one got justice or not, people of faith have had big dreams. They have had dreams that shape the world. When we dream big, the world changes. It doesn't always change overnight, but we have to have big dreams. And climate justice is a big dream. And so the Wisconsin 7 are willing to not eat for 22 days because we have this dream for a beautiful, hopeful, just, clean world. I'm going to invite Justin Blake up to give us some instructions for what's next.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you to all our peacekeepers and those people that are thinking about the world and our community and our atmosphere for coming out today. My dear sister, thank you for coming. We love and respect the work your pops did. I've talked to some of my colleagues here on the 7. I apologize, we're not going to walk to the bridge today, but we are going to stand in unity on that corner, shake a flag, and make some noise with a sign to let people know change is here. When the automotive car came around, when the first car rolled out of a Ford plant, you know how it changed the Americas? We had to put up gas stations, you know what I'm saying? So that's the electrical. We had to do a multitude of things. Hotels went along the roadway. All this thing developed around the car. So when you're talking about new energy, there's going to be new developments of all kinds we can't even imagine right now. And you guys are going to be the lead cause of it. You're our heroes for coming out today. And we would love it if you join us on the corner right here for quite a few minutes of celebration of having a green planet. And so if we could all meet on the corner, we can walk over there together and talk. And we're going to stir up the crowd that comes by and see if we can get some horns honking for climate justice. Come on over. Thank you. Thank everybody for coming again. Peace and love.